What are vaccines? There are many common misconceptions and myths about what vaccines are and what they do. Vaccines are not drugs. They don't alter your body or body chemistry. A vaccine introduces an irritant to trigger your body's natural immune response. That's all. Think of it like training the security system at a bank by sending in a fake robber so the security system learns to identify that type of criminal. Nothing in your body is being altered. Your immune system is simply learning to identify that one specific trigger so that it can remember it and deal with it faster and more effectively in the future. But then why do some people have bad reactions to vaccines? The vaccine isn't doing anything. Your immune system is. Remember, all a vaccine does is trigger an immune response. If your immune system isn't functioning properly, say for example you are already sick, or have an autoimmune disorder, or are immunocompromised, your immune system can attack your own body and overreact, causing you harm. Remember that diseases generally don't make you feel sick. Your immune system's response to the diseases makes you feel sick. It's the battle turning your body into a war zone that makes you feel so bad. If a disease is making you feel sick, you're in serious trouble, because that means your immune system failed to respond and the disease has now done so much damage your body is failing and you're most likely going to die. An example of this is cancer. Your immune system can't see cancer, so you don't feel sick until the cancer has gotten so bad you're dying. Do vaccines cause autism or other conditions? No. This claim was invented by Andrew Wakefield in a fraudulent attempt to market his own vaccine. He illegally and abusively experimented on children, and when he still didn't get the results that he wanted, he faked his results so that he could convince people the MMR vaccine was dangerous so he could sell an alternative MMR vaccine. The journal that originally published his fraudulent study has since retracted it and apologized for their lack of due diligence in properly checking it before publishing it, and Wakefield's medical license has been revoked for his unethical practices. As previously stated, vaccines do not alter your body. They simply trigger your natural immune response so it can learn to identify a new threat. What about long-term side effects from vaccines? There has never been any long-term side effect from any vaccine, ever. And it's not possible for there to be one because vaccines don't do anything to your body. They only trigger a natural immune response. If you don't have a bad reaction soon after getting the vaccine, you're never going to have one. It is possible in rare cases for your immune response to damage your body, and in even more rare cases that damage can be permanent. But that is your own immune system harming you, not the vaccine, and that damage was done right away. There are never any delayed effects from a vaccine that just suddenly hit you years later. It's simply not possible. If I'm young and healthy, do I really need vaccines? Yes, you absolutely do. No matter how healthy you are, diseases are still dangerous and do kill healthy people sometimes. But even if you are certain a disease can't kill you if you're unvaccinated, you will still get sicker and for longer than if you had been vaccinated. Because when you're vaccinated, your body already knows what the disease looks like and how to deal with it so it can jump straight to fighting the disease rather than wasting time learning about it. Also, you are more contagious and for a longer period when you aren't vaccinated, so you're putting everyone around you at higher risk. Refusing to get vaccinated is not only reckless for your own safety, but also negligent and selfish about the safety of everyone around you, friends, family, co-workers, customers, and strangers you pass on the street. What about the new mRNA vaccines like the COVID-19 vaccines? Don't they change your DNA? No, mRNA vaccines don't change your DNA. It is true that the new mRNA vaccines do work slightly differently than the vaccines we have used before. They're safer, cheaper, and more effective than previous vaccines and can be developed much faster. Older vaccines had to be grown, which is a slow, costly process, and had to introduce a weakened or dead version of a virus or bacteria to trigger your immune response, which in rare cases could result in you actually getting the disease, though a milder version of the disease than if you'd naturally been infected. Manufacturing complex proteins is hard to do and expensive, but your cells do it all the time naturally. What the new mRNA vaccines do is teach a few of your cells how to make a desired protein and let them do the work. In the case of COVID-19, there is a spike protein on the outer shell of the virus that your immune system can recognize. So the vaccine teaches a few of your cells how to produce that spike protein. Those cells pump out a bunch of the spike protein, which your immune system learns to identify. Since only messenger RNA is introduced to the cells, all that's happening is the cell's manufacturing parts are given instructions. No changes to the cell or the cell's DNA are happening, and the messenger RNA breaks down after a few hours, causing the cells to just go back to their normal functions. No permanent changes are made to any part of your body or cells. None of the active components of the virus ever enter your body, so there is no chance of getting the disease from the vaccine. Because mRNA vaccines don't need to be grown, they can be produced much faster and cheaper, allowing us to respond much faster to outbreaks and to reduce the cost of vaccines in the future. Since only a little messenger RNA is being injected rather than lots of spike proteins, mRNA vaccines have smaller dosages, which means more can be manufactured, stored, and shipped than older vaccines in the same time and space. And the amount of vaccine being injected into your body is smaller as well. Aren't mRNA vaccines not properly tested or rushed? mRNA vaccines have been in testing and development for years with a great deal of success, including a vaccine against certain types of cancer that are over 90% effective. When the pandemic broke out, the technology was adopted into COVID-19 vaccine research, allowing for a dramatically faster development because the technology already existed and had already been tested. The COVID-19 mRNA vaccines were also tested, not just relying on previous tests of the general technology. The reason the COVID-19 vaccines were tested so quickly was instead of running the tests sequentially, meaning one after the other, they were run in parallel, meaning all at the same time. They received exactly the same tests as any other drug or vaccine. As a matter of fact, their tests were even more reliable since they were tested on a lot more people than would normally be used because there were simply so many sick people to test them on. If parallel testing is so much faster, why didn't they use it on previous vaccines? The reason why testing is normally done sequentially instead of in parallel is financial risk. Normally, a company will run the tests one at a time so that if a new vaccine or drug fails to pass the first test, they don't waste the time and money running more tests. They stop and either give up on that line of research or do more research and make changes and start a new series of tests on a new formula. Because of the extra funding provided by governments and the urgency of the pandemic, the companies took a gamble that would have potentially cost them billions of dollars if it didn't work out, and ran all the tests at the same time. They, and we, got very lucky that several vaccines worked and passed all the tests, saving millions of lives and also demonstrating the amazing potential of this new technology. I heard Bill Gates is sterilizing people with vaccines and putting microchips in them to track people. No, vaccines don't sterilize people, and there is no microchip in existence that is small enough to fit in a vaccine needle. There was an incident once where a batch of vaccines was contaminated and some people were hurt, which is certainly tragic, but has nothing to do with vaccines. That was a manufacturing accident and also happens with medicines and foods and other manufactured products occasionally. Sadly, we don't live in a perfect world and accidents do happen, but unless you're going to stop eating or taking any kind of medication or supplements, you're always going to be taking that risk. Vaccines are no different. Aren't there legitimate reasons to not get vaccinated? Yes. People who are immunocompromised or taking immunosuppressants or very young infants can't be vaccinated and can't benefit from vaccines even if they were because their immune systems are too weak or underdeveloped, which makes it even more important that everyone else be vaccinated to shield those among us who are vulnerable from infection. Also, if someone previously had a very bad reaction to a vaccine, and by bad, that doesn't mean they felt bad for a few days. Bad as in hospitalized and told by doctors they have a problem. Then that person shouldn't get any more of that type of vaccine. There are no other legitimate reasons not to be vaccinated. Aren't vaccines just a conspiracy by Big Pharma to make money? Obviously, companies make money. They all do. Well, except for the ones that go bankrupt and go out of business, of course. But vaccines are not a great moneymaker. They are purchased by governments or aid organizations in bulk at discount rates. and people only get them once or twice in their lives. The exception being the yearly flu vaccine, but that technically is a different vaccine each year that costs money to develop each time. Drugs that people need to take every day for their entire lives, like antidepressants, painkillers, blood pressure meds, and insulin, are far more profitable than vaccines. Getting vaccinated actually reduces the profits of Big Pharma by preventing you from getting the disease that will require you to take all kinds of medication to treat. So if you really want to stick it to Big Pharma, get every vaccination you can. Aren't vaccines unnatural? Isn't it better to just eat and live right and have a healthy immune system? Vaccines don't change your body or your immune system. All they do is teach your immune system how to identify a new disease before you get infected so your natural immune system is prepared to deal with it. Yes, eating and living healthy is a good thing and will benefit you in many ways, including boosting your immune system. But if your immune system doesn't know how to recognize an infection, it can't deal with that infection. No amount of healthy living can stop you from getting smallpox. Only a vaccine can do that. And thanks to vaccines, smallpox no longer exists. A disease that used to kill hundreds of millions of people and leave survivors maimed and scarred for life. What about the preservatives they use in vaccines? Don't they use mercury? In the past, a chemical containing a type of mercury was used as a preservative in some vaccines. No evidence has ever been shown that it harmed anyone, and it has since been removed from vaccines to avoid the panic anti-vaxxers attempted to stir up over it. It should be noted that the type of mercury they did use did not bioaccumulate, meaning it didn't build up in your body the way elemental mercury does, and was a fraction of the amount that you would get from just eating a tuna sandwich. But vaccines aren't perfectly safe. Some people get hurt. Isn't getting vaccinated risky? Nothing is perfect, though vaccines are the closest we've come. In very rare cases, like 1 in a million kind of rare, people have been seriously harmed by a vaccine. But your chances of being harmed by the disease is far higher, many orders of magnitude higher. Plus, you getting the disease now puts everyone around you at risk of being infected and harmed, especially the very young and immunocompromised who can't get vaccinated and have impaired immune systems that are much less capable of fighting off an infection. Unless you plan on living in a bubble or alone on a desert island, your best chance of staying healthy is getting vaccines, as many vaccines as you can. And it is also the most responsible thing you can do if you care about the well-being of those around you, both loved ones and strangers. As a result of the recent anti-vaxxer movement, many previously nearly eliminated diseases have been making a resurgence, and people have been getting sick and dying. Choosing not to vaccinate is not a personal choice. It is a public health danger.